I'm Steve Buchanan, and today we're going to talk a little bit about our procedures for shooting our youth sports photography. First, we'll talk about camera settings. We run through a lot of images when we shoot these jobs, and they get shipped off to a lab which literally deals with thousands of these shots every day. So it's very important that we keep our camera settings consistent. We keep them simple because we've got a lot of data, a lot of photos to work through. So we want to keep everything as simple as we can, and we want to keep everything as consistent as we can. Let's first talk about white balance. We need to manually set our white balance to daylight or flash. Never, ever use auto white balance on these jobs. It's just a recipe for disaster. Daylight, flash. One of those two only, please. Second, let's talk about ISO. I know the cameras have got great noise characteristics at higher ISO, but most of the time we're shooting outdoors, so you're going to keep everything set at ISO 100. Even on occasions when we're shooting indoors, we want to minimize the amount of ambient light that we get bleeding in, so we're still going to keep the ISO at 100. So at all times when we're shooting these, preset daylight white balance, ISO 100. In terms of camera settings, personally I think that the program mode works best. You're going to have kids running around, you're going to have parents yelling in your ears at times. The less you have to worry about when it comes to this, the better. I think the program mode on today's cameras work great. Let's talk about recording format. High quality, high resolution JPEG is perfect. Again, since we've got a lot of photos to run through and the lab has got even more, shooting in RAW is just not going to work. It's too much data. We need to keep things very simple. So, high quality, high resolution JPEG. Finally, let's talk about flash. If your camera has a built-in flash, feel free to use it. It works very well. Occasionally you will get red eye with a built-in flash, but it's nothing to worry about because the lab will digitally remove that later. If you have an external flash like this, all the better. And especially on long days where we're going to run through a lot of kids, the external flash is great because you're not going to be draining your internal camera battery. Again, ETTL for the external flash, program mode works beautifully. Now let's talk about slating and identification procedures for our teams and our individual shots. We use two different envelopes over the course of the day. First envelope is the larger team envelope, or the coach's envelope. The idea being the coach will fill out their information here, and it will be up to you, the photographer, or the coordinator there on site, whoever's taking care of this that day, to write in the sequence number for the team. In other words, if that's the first team we've shot that day, it's team number 1, 2, 3, so on down the line. Clearly write, with your Sharpie please, the team number, the team name, and the team division as they want it to appear on the team photos. And this is very important because at the lab they will digitally enter the captions for the team name, the league, and the division on each team photo. So whatever they want to have on their team photo is what you're going to put here. If they want to be called the Yellow Jackets, you put Yellow Jackets. And if they're in the under 8 division, you put under 8. Whatever you write here is what will appear on the image. So be very careful to check with the coach and make sure you've got all that right. First shot for your team will be one of the children in the team photo holding up this shot. Very important to get the full envelope, including the information that you've written in here in Sharpie, and a shot of about half of the kids so they can see the uniform colors and some of the children's faces. This will be the identifier for the entire team back at the lab. You'll shoot one kid holding this up in the team setting. The kid will put this down. You'll do 2 to 3 team shots. You will check them on the LCD on your camera, making sure that nobody's blinked and nobody's got their tongue sticking out, and so on down the line. Then, if you are shooting team photos, you must back them up to a second camera. Whether that's a second digital camera, whether that's the general film camera, we'll always have an extra camera on hand at site to make sure that you've got them backed up. God forbid something happens and we have a data loss, at least we have a backup on all of the team photos. Remember, on your backups, you still have to slate the team once again. Covers the team photos. Typically, we'll either have one photographer shooting team photos and other photographers shooting individuals. On other jobs, we have photographers shooting both. It's going to differ from job to job. So it's important that you know how to shoot team photos. You might not do it ever for me, but it's important that you know in case I call on you to do it. Once we move on to the individual photos, we're going to do a similar type thing. We're going to slate each child, but instead of just using the team envelope, we're also going to be using their individual envelope as well. Now again, from here up, this envelope should be filled out by the parent or the child by the time it gets to you. Okay. It will be your job, again, using your Sharpie, to indicate in this lower section how many of each package they've purchased. And that information will be written here in the item code section. So for example, if they've purchased one package number 4, you'll indicate here with a number 1. And again, this is for the lab. They can quickly identify which package this shot is going to be for. If they've ordered 2 of number 4 and 1 of number 6, you'll indicate a 2 and a 1 with your Sharpie. Big letters so they can read it on the preview screen at the lab. For the first kid in that team group, you're going to want to have them hold up a team photo like this. I'm sorry, a team slate like this, indicating the the identification number for that child, as well as the identification numbers for that team. First photo, shot like this. The next shot will be of the kid. Envelopes will go down, and they'll do whatever pose they're going to do, whether it's the bat on the shoulder or the soccer ball under the arm. Every subsequent kid in that team will simply hold up their individual envelope. Important to get the entire envelope and the child's face in the shot. Shot number 1, identification slate. Then put the envelope down, and the next shot is the shot of the child. And again, in their pose with the bat or the ball or however they're going to pose for their individual picture. It is not necessary to take more than 1 photo of each child after you've done the identity slate. It's okay to check your LCD to make sure that they didn't blink or that their smile looks good. If they didn't blink, if their smile looks fine, move on, next child in the line. I generally don't like to have the parents review the photo on site, simply because it's really going to slow us down. If every parent has to check and okay the shots, we're never going to get done. You know, if somebody's making a stink, of course, yeah, sure, here, go ahead, take a look. I'm not supposed to, but go ahead. But we can't make a procedure out of allowing that. We just never get anything done. Which brings me to our final important point. If you're taking photos and one of the kids just is not looking great, please do not delete the bad photo. Leave it on there. The lab knows if there's 2 of the same kid that they're going to look and they're going to double check. I've seen people where they mean to hit delete 1 and they accidentally hit delete all, and everything they've shot that day is now in jeopardy. So never delete photos when you're working for us on these. Don't worry about the bad ones. Even if you're giving somebody the finger, leave it on the camera. I also want to talk about the framing of the photographs. It's important to remember that we not crop in too tight on any of the photos, whether they be individual photos or team photos. These will go in a variety of sizes and in a variety of formats, and so we need to shoot with enough space to allow for an 8x10 crop, which might cut a little bit off, or a 4x6 crop, which is going to show full frame. And then finally, on the team photos, it's also important to remember to leave some air along the bottom, because we're going to digitally caption each of these photos. So we cannot fully fill the frame with the team. We need to leave some clear space, top and bottom, again, to allow for the cropping of the different sizes, as well as the digital captioning that's going to go along the bottom. And then finally, I just want to say that this is a lot of information to be thrown at someone who's never been down this road before. So don't worry if you've missed something. Feel free to watch this thing as many times as you want. But remember, almost always either myself or one of my experienced photographers is going to be on site with you. You're never going to get thrown out there alone. So if you've got any questions during the shoot or before the shoot, call me or call one of my senior people and talk to them. And let's just make sure we get this right. It's so easy to ask a question and have have the team wait an extra minute and a half rather than to rush ahead, make a mistake, and then I or one of my people's got to come back out and reshoot all of this. It's very easy. It's not that hard. Ask me the questions. I'm not going to bite your head off. If I do, feel free to smack me around.